Today, we've got a quick review of the Sirui Astra 50mm T1.8 Anamorphic. Now, this is an independent test, not sponsored, as I bought the lens with my own money. The Astra series is Sirui's new full-frame lineup, and it comes in 3 focal lengths, 50, 75, and 100. Each one is available with either a neutral or blue flare, and you can get them in native L, Z, and E mounts. Now, the headline feature is obvious: autofocus on an anamorphic lens. We put that to the test in just a second, but the real headline here, I think, is the price. So each comes in at just under $1,000, which would have been unheard of just a few years ago. Because yeah, cine lenses from high-end brands often run tens of thousands of dollars a piece. And to be clear, it's not that they magically create better images in every scenario, it's that they're built to survive brutal production environments and deliver consistent results day after day. Pros happily pay for that. The question is, what about the rest of us? Turns out the democratization of camera gear over the last few years has been kind of miraculous, and Sirui has been one of the companies pushing the price-to-performance boundary forward. The Astra series is just one of the latest versions of this in action. And happily, this definitely isn't a case of cheap lens with one cool feature. So let's run through it. First, T1.8. Sure, faster lenses exist, but fast plus anamorphic and autofocus is a pretty rare combo, and T1.8 is bright enough for just about anything I or probably you would shoot. Next, minimum focus distance. Anamorphics can be notorious for long minimum focus distances, but not here. The 50mm focuses in at as close as 1.6 feet, and even the 100mm is 2.3 feet. Now, practically, this means anything about an arm's length away works great. So, for example, point of view stuff, holding something in front of the camera, casual vlogging, that sort of thing. Mechanically, it's super solid. You've got distance markings in feet and meters, manual focus is smooth and quiet, there's a dedicated gear ring for follow focus systems, and importantly, it's in the same position across the whole Astra set. Aperture runs from T1.8 to T22, and like the focus ring, the aperture gear ring is in the same position across the entire series. The aperture ring has 2 modes, clicked and declicked, toggled with a switch on the right-hand side of the lens. There's also an aperture lock, or you can turn the aperture ring all the way to the right to enable auto aperture. In that mode, my LUMIX controls the aperture like any other modern lens. Weight varies slightly by mount and focal length. My 50mm comes in at 628 grams, or about 1.3 pounds. The heaviest one is the Z mount 100mm at 716 grams, or about 1.58 pounds. Length is basically identical across the line, 130mm, or about 5.2 inches. The body is aluminum alloy, and the only plastic parts are the switches and buttons. Build quality is genuinely excellent. The markings are clear, no creaks or rattles, and everything that rotates feels smooth and consistent. It feels substantial without feeling heavy, it's just plain nice to use. Filter thread is 67mm, which is great because many of us already have filters in that size. Now let's talk about the squeeze. This is 1.33x, which at least for me puts it firmly in the daily driver category. It gives you that anamorphic character without turning everything into a special effect. Now, framing does depend on how you shoot and what crop modes your camera supports. So for example, my LUMIX S1Rii can do 3.2 open gate, 4.3, 17.9, and 16.9. So in practice, 17.9 gives you the most anamorphic feel. 16.9 is a little less aggressive. 3.2 open gate is my personal favorite. On a 16.9 time length that we have here, there's a small vertical crop, but doesn't feel like you're forcing that cinematic look. It just feels natural. 4.3 uses an APS-C crop, which I want to focus on just for a second. See, there are no black bars, and it basically turns this lens into a 50mm spherical in terms of framing. That's really interesting because it's like having an anamorphic and almost spherical option in one lens. We'll get back to that in a second. And honestly, this is what I mean by daily driver. See, the squeeze factor doesn't draw too much attention to itself, and 50mm is, in my opinion, the perfect focal length. See, it makes you think really hard about your composition because you can't rely on tricks like super wide angles or depth compression. The downside, and I'll fully cop to this, is 50mm spherical is a little bit too tight for a lot of video scenarios. With 50mm anamorphic, however, you keep that truthful 50mm perspective, but you gain horizontal room without going so wide that composing becomes much harder. If you've ever shot with wider anamorphics or higher squeeze ratios, you know what I mean. Sometimes there's so much horizontal space, the framing actually becomes quite difficult. So yeah, 50mm at 1.33x is a great choice for a huge number of shooting scenarios. And as a bonus, with the 4.3 crop mode, you basically get a traditional 50mm spherical frame if and when you need it. Because of all this, I'd argue that for a lot of hobbyists, this could literally be the only lens you need. It is for me. Now to the star of the show, autofocus. Honestly, there's not much to say, which is exactly what I was hoping for. So on my LUMIX, autofocus speed and accuracy feel very close to what my LUMIX 50mm S series lens has. The one big difference, however, is sound. So my LUMIX lens is basically silent. The Astra has a high-pitched, faint whining sound when focusing. It's most noticeable in quiet spaces, and yes, if you're using the onboard mic, you will hear it in recordings. That said, in just about any normal setting with modern ambient noise, it's a non-issue. Now, just to give you a feel for it though, here's an example. Note I have had to boost the track to 25 dB to make it audible. Finally, how does it look? In a word, great. It has the bokeh shape you'd expect, minimal flaring, and excellent edge-to-edge sharpness. It's not as clinically sharp as my 50mm spherical, but I wouldn't want it to be. I haven't noticed any odd color fringing or similar artifacts as well. Overall, in my experience, modern lenses, and this one is definitely no exception, are all starting to converge on a baseline of performance that even 10 years ago would have been considered the best of the best. So let's look at a few sample shots. This isn't meant to be comprehensive, just enough to get a quick feel for this lens's character. I will note that everything here is shot in ARRI LogC using the log-to-log workflow. I'll do a full explainer on that very soon. Alright, so let's wrap this up. For the price, this lens is ridiculous in the best possible way. It's absolutely packed with features, and the only flaw of consequence is the autofocus noise. But practically speaking, this only affects the onboard mic in very quiet spaces. Considering its price and features, this is an easy recommend.